Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
The second reason was that he had the life arc that could resurrect indefinitely, so he didn't have to worry about the deaths of his soldiers. Died on the battlefield? No problem. They could be revived through the free revival opportunity given by the life arc. Dying in battle after being resurrected again? No problem. He could go to the life arc's resurrection altar and spend some mist core, divine crystals, or faith divine crystals to revive them as long as there were relics. What? Resurrecting God spirits required Holy Spirit tier faith divine crystals? And Holy Spirit tier faith divine crystals were very precious and could not satisfy the resurrection needs of a large number of God spirits? No problem as well. There was a special device called the Faith Divine Crystal Transformation Altar, Chapter 1124, in the Life Arc's Inheritance. It could transform low-level Faith Divine Crystals into high-level Faith Divine Crystals. It could also transform high-level Faith Divine Crystals into low-level Faith Divine Crystals. Even the most precious Holy Spirit tier God spirits could be created through a large number of low-level Faith Divine Crystals. Therefore, there was no need to worry about not having enough high-level Faith Divine Crystals. He no longer had to worry about lacking Holy Spirit tier Faith Divine Crystals when resurrecting a true God tier. Another reason was that he still had 10 battle resurrection scrolls. Even if all the soldiers under him were wiped out, he could just use a battle resurrection scroll to revive them. Of course, the battle resurrection scroll was one of his trump cards. Zhou Fight would use these trump cards at critical moments and would not be stingy if he really needed to use it. As for the fourth reason, it was that he would personally participate in this battle. He had great information about him. He could even influence the victory of this war by himself. In front of Cosmos Emperor, Bai Yun had already tidied up her army and was looking at the Scarlet Army from afar. At this moment, there were 194 true God tiers and also 50 other true God tier army spirits. Behind the true God tier battle formation spirit were 100 mechanical elvens that were quietly waiting for the battle to begin. These were more than 300 true God tiers. The difference between him and the other party in terms of true God tier was not much. Bai Yun had already drawn her bow without hesitation, without waiting for the other party to start fighting. Whoosh! A divine arrow flew out, carrying the shocking power of military formations. In the blink of an eye, it pierced through the brain of a Scarlet True God tier in the Scarlet Army. The Scarlet True God tier let out a miserable howl. Even though he wasn't dead and his brain that had been shot was rapidly growing new flesh and blood, his aura had also decreased significantly. Yellow Talisman Dao soldiers, listen up. Charge with me, the Legion Commander. Bai Yun put away her bow and arrow. Then, with an order, she summoned a mid-tier deity-level Jade Dragon God. He rode on the dragon's body and took the lead to charge into the enemy's Scarlet Army. They actually dare to start the battle first. The true God tiers of the Dark Gloom Scarlet Empire could not help but sneer when they saw this scene and led the army to attack without hesitation. Both sides flew towards each other brazenly. Due to the huge difference in strength, the two sides were like an elephant charging at an ant. Soon, both sides rushed into the other party's army and fought with the other party's soldiers. The battlefield was divided into 3 levels. The ordinary soldiers were fighting with the ordinary soldiers. The God spirits were fighting. As for the true God tier and true God tier, they each activated their world domains to fight. The world domain was equivalent to a world that had been created alone. When fighting in the world domain, it could prevent the aftershocks of the battle from leaking out and hurting the high continent. From there, it could avoid being punished by the Supreme Agreement. At the beginning of the battle, as predicted by the Scarlet Army, they quickly gained the upper hand and suppressed the army of the Blazing Sun Empire because of their huge military strength and the God Spirit's advantage. They felt that something was wrong. This was because they realized that these soldiers of the Blazing Sun Empire actually all had the strength of an Empire tier soldier type. No, they were even stronger than the Empire tier soldiers, comparable to the strength of those top-notch Empire soldiers. In addition, they were fully equipped, had many skills, and had a lot of potions, so their combat power was shockingly strong. Not to mention 1 against 10, Even if it was 1 against 50, it would not be a problem. On their side, there were very few Empire tier soldier types to begin with. In addition, the other party's forbidden mages had been chanting forbidden spells at the back of the battlefield and bombarding the Scarlet Army. In less than a moment, the number of casualties on the Blazing Sun Empire's side was less than 100 million. As for the soldiers of the Scarlet faction, their casualties had already reached 10 billion. The true god-tier leader of the mysterious Dark Scarlet Empire had been watching the battle from the back of the battlefield. When he saw this result, even though he was a little surprised at first, he didn't feel anything after that. So what if these guys were strong individually? The huge disparity in military strength would eventually allow them to obtain the final victory. Would a cow mind how much fur it had lost? Definitely not. Moreover, after the battle between a true god tier and a god spirit was over, he could just turn around and help the soldiers. He looked up at the battle between the god spirits and true god tiers. Then, his expression changed slightly as he cried out in shock. How is that possible? On the war zone of the true god tiers, the true god tiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom were either 1 against 2 or 1 against 3. The Scarlet faction had brought more than 600 true god tiers with them. At this moment, there were actually more than 500 true god tiers, but they were all blocked by the true god tiers of the Blazing Sun Empire. And looking at the combat situation in the world domain, the true god tier of the Blazing Sun Empire actually had an advantage. He took a closer look and was shocked to discover something. That was, these nearly 300 true god tiers were actually all wearing full sets of true god tier divine artifacts. In total, there were nearly 1,800 true god tier divine artifacts. Thinking of this number, the Scarlet true god tier leader couldn't help but feel a little dizzy. This was 1,800 true god tier divine artifacts, not 1,800 ordinary divine artifacts. Even the Overlord level Lord factions in the Myriad Worlds probably couldn't have so many true god tier divine artifacts, right? No wonder these guys could suppress more true god tier than them. The sheer number of pure divine artifacts were crushing. However, this wasn't what shocked him the most. What shocked him the most was that he actually saw the common people's regal appear. Furthermore, the instant the other party appeared, he did something that shocked all the life forms present. Zhou Fight floated in midair, exuding a god spirit pressure that was infinitely close to the master god tier level. Then, he took out the 9-headed nightmare realm demon god's heart and activated the 9 worlds divine demon dreamfall array, enveloping the remaining 100 or so true god tiers in the true god tier advanced great array. Then, he smiled and looked at the 100-odd true god tiers. Next, it's time for our battle. He smiled. Common people's regal, you're only relying on your lord's law skill to temporarily advance to the advanced grade of a true god tier. Yet you're delusional enough to challenge more than 100 of us true god tiers alone. You'll die for your arrogance. A true god tier advanced grade Scarlet God Spirit looked at Zhou Fight and uttered coldly. Oh, is that so? Zhou Fight chuckled and looked up at the sky. In the sky above the 9 worlds divine demon dreamfall array, a great lunar star slowly rose. The great lunar divine light illuminated the entire array. Zhou Fight looked at the bright moon and took a deep breath. Talent, Moon Demon. Activate. The next second, his aura, which was already infinitely close to the low-level Master God tier, actually directly broke through the bottleneck and officially reached the low-level Master God tier. The true God tier divine artifacts on him had also silently become Master God tier elementary grade divine artifacts. The regal Sage Dao sword in his hand also advanced to the low-level Master God tier elementary grade. Zhou Fight uttered softly under the terrified and despairing gazes of the true God tiers. Everyone, have you ever fought with a Master God tier expert? In the 9 worlds divine demon dreamfall array, the 100-odd Scarlet true God tiers looked at Zhou Fight, who was in the middle of them, in shock. Master God tier. The common people's regal is actually a Master God tier. No, he isn't a Master God tier. He only relied on some mystic technique to temporarily raise his strength to the Master God tier level. At most, he can be considered a fake Master God tier. But a fake Master God tier also has the combat power of a Master God tier. How can we true God tiers deal with them? Everyone, don't be afraid. It's just a fake Master God tier. We have more than 100 true God tiers. Let's kill him together. We have no other choice other than killing him. The Scarlet True God tiers quickly calmed down after the initial panic. The Scarlet True God tier was right. Now that they were trapped in this fellow's array formation, as long as common people's regal didn't die, the array formation wouldn't be broken, and they wouldn't be able to escape. They could only join forces to kill this fake Master God tier. Attack together. As the first True God tier shouted and rushed towards Zhou Zhou, the other True God tiers also rushed up or attacked from afar. Zhou Fight smiled when he saw this scene. Then, he slashed out with his sword, and a supreme sword aura wrapped around the phantom of a golden regal dragon instantly burst out. In the blink of an eye, it killed the divine body of a True God tier elementary grade Scarlet True God tier. The Scarlet True God tier widened his eyes in disbelief. He looked at his divine body that had been split into two. Then, the divine power aura on his body suddenly disappeared, and he did not do anything else. One strike to kill a True God tier. This scene terrified the other True God tiers who were attacking Zhou Fight. This common people's regal strength had actually increased to this extent. However, it was also because they were frightened that they attacked Zhou Fight with all their might. The Scarlet True God tier that they had just killed might be their future if Zhou Fight did not die after all. Zhou Fight had to die in order to ensure their own survival. After Zhou Fight killed a Scarlet True God tier, he swept his gaze across the Scarlet True God tiers that were charging towards him. He was not afraid at all. Instead, he grinned and transformed into a 9-colored stream of light that rushed towards the Scarlet True God tier closest to him. This True God tier was a top-notch True God tier who was an advanced grade True God. He walked the path of metal laws. Seeing that Zhou Fight had actually targeted him, he was stunned for a moment before a ferocious expression appeared on his face. He raised his right hand, and a wisp of golden light quickly condensed in his palm. In the blink of an eye, it condensed into a golden spear that was more than 10,000 meters long. Metal Law skill, 9 gold heaven-splitting spear. He suddenly flung it, and the spear flew towards Zhou Fight with astonishing nomological might. Zhou Fight waved the regal sage Dao sword and directly broke the golden spear. Then, he instantly arrived in front of the other party and raised the regal sage Dao sword in his hand, cutting him into two from head to toe. The other party died on the spot. Zhou Fight put away the corpse of the Scarlet True God tier. Then, he transformed into a 9-colored stream of light again and flew towards the next Scarlet True God tier who was closest to him. When the Scarlet True God tier saw Zhou Fight charging towards him, a look of horror appeared on his face. Then, without thinking, he actually wanted to escape into space. Zhou Fight smiled coldly. However, he did not stop the other party. Then, he saw that the Scarlet True God tier was stunned on the spot. Then, he cried out involuntarily, "Why can't I escape into space?" Zhou Fight did not say anything. He teleported to the side of the Scarlet True God tier and killed it again. Then, he put it into his king's treasure box. His 9 worlds divine demon dreamfall array was a top-notch True God tier array formation that could transform the present world into a dream. Within the range of this array formation, unless the other party was a top-notch True God tier or even a Master God tier, they could not use spatial abilities. Otherwise, it was impossible to teleport in the dream realm. Even if more than 100 Scarlet True God tier joined forces, it was impossible to break the 9 worlds divine demon dreamfall array. The 9 worlds divine demon dreamfall array was a True God tier array. The one controlling him was a Master God tier elementary grade Lord Law God Spirit. The power of the 9 worlds divine demon dreamfall array controlled by him had even reached the level of an elementary grade Master God tier. How could a mere 100 or so True God tier break through and escape? The expressions of the surrounding True Gods changed when they heard the words of this True God tier before he died. Then, they tried to break the array formation and leave together. However, as expected, they did not break the array. Their expressions immediately turned ugly. Then, they looked at Zhou fight in unison before charging over again with a ferocious expression. A battle between trapped beasts. Zhou fight stroked the holy sword in his hand and said calmly. Then, he turned into a nine-colored stream of light and began to kill crazily. Half an hour later, all the true god tier in the array space had been slaughtered by Heim, turning into the corpses of the deities who had yet to retrieve their loots. They lay quietly in his king's treasure box. Zhou fight looked at the empty array space and felt that his divine body was not weak at all. A smile appeared on his face. This moon demon from the Blood Moon clan is quite talented. I've entered the moon demon form. Even if I don't use my lord's laws, just relying on my own strength and the power of my master god tier divine artifact, killing a true god tier is like killing a dog. If I use the myriad method star palm, my strength should be able to increase again, even though it wouldn't improve much. He thought to himself. Even though the myriad method star palm was a lord law skill, his law was only at the low-tier deity level advanced grade after all. Naturally, it could not provide much help to him at the master god tier level. It was already strong enough to increase his strength a little. Then, he looked at his king's treasure box, and the grin on his face became even more obvious. He had gained a lot this time. He had merely seen that among the 100-odd scarlet true gods, at least 3 of them had used true god-tier divine artifacts. As for the true god-tier divine artifacts hidden in the dark, there should be at least 2 or 3 of them. At least 20 master god-tier divine artifacts will drop this time. Zhou Zhou nodded in satisfaction. However, the human race did not have a master god tier yet. There was a high chance that these master god tier divine artifacts would be used by him. Or he could use it to hire a master god tier powerhouse as his bodyguard. The temptation of a master god tier divine artifact was enough to make those master god tier existences lower their pride and follow him. As long as the another individual dared to join him, his lord talent would make the other party not have any disloyalty. This pondered flashed through Zhou Fight's mind. Then he stopped thinking about it and turned off the moon demon form. He only maintained his strength to the level of an elementary grade true god tier. At the same time, he deliberately made his aura appear weaker and his eyes dimmer. He even deliberately created some bloodstains to make him look like he was seriously injured. Only his eyes remained firm and sharp. However, this firm and sharp gaze, coupled with his disguised feeble aura, made it look like him was deliberately putting up a strong front to prevent others from seeing his weakness. Then, he turned off the 9 Worlds Divine Demon Dreamfall array. Back when the Zhou fight had just begun, the true god-tier leader of the Dark Gloom Scarlet Empire stared intently at the scene in the 9 Worlds Divine Demon Dreamfall array. He never expected that to happen. This common people's regal actually did not hesitate to personally come to the battlefield and even participated in the battle. If they were to tell their king and your excellency AUS, they would probably immediately stop their march and surround and kill this common people's regal with all their might, right? After all, their goal in going to the Blazing Sun Empire was to destroy the common people's regal. Since their goal was here, they might as well deal with the other party here. However, now that the war had already begun, he could only wait for the war to end before reporting to his king and your excellency AUS. He's already using a master god tier technique so quickly. The true god tier leader looked at the scene revealed by the 9 Worlds Divine Demon Dreamfall array with a serious expression. Zhou Fight took out an elementary grade master god tier treasure and used a master god tier secret technique. Then, he started fighting with the 100-odd scarlet true god tiers. With a master god tier treasure in hand, Zhou Fight looked arrogant. In less than a moment, he slaughtered half of the 100-odd true god tiers. However, when he saw this scene, not only was this Dark Gloom Scarlet Empire true god tier not angry, he even smiled. This was because according to his experience and knowledge, the master god tier mystic technique used by this common people's regal was a method to forcefully unleash one's strength by expending one's potential and state. Furthermore, it did not last long. After this period of time passed, not only would the other party's strength greatly decrease, but he would also become extremely weak before he used the mystic technique. Wasn't it the best time to deal with the common people's regal when he was too weak to fight? As for the true god-tier Scarlet who had died in battle, in any case, not many of them were worshipped by the dark gloom Scarlet Empire's true god tier. Why would he care if they lived or died? What he did not know was that the scene he saw was all fabricated by the Nine Worlds Divine Demon Dreamfall Array. Its goal was to deceive the Scarlet factions to hide the true strength of the Zhou fight. Soon, after common people's regal killed all the Scarlet true god tiers in the array formation, he weakly dispelled the Nine Worlds Divine Demon Dreamfall Array. He looked down at the true god tier battlefield, the god spirit battlefield, and the soldiers' battlefield. He took out the corpses of more than 100 Scarlet true god tiers and floated them in the sky. After dealing a blow to the morale of the Scarlet factions, he flew towards Cosmos Emperor without looking back and flew into the spaceship without coming out again. This scene made the Scarlet true god tier leaders' eyes light up. It seemed that the common people's regal was indeed too weak to continue fighting. Otherwise, why didn't he stay behind to continue fighting and help his soldiers and god spirits? But when he saw the battle situation on his side, his expression changed slightly. This was because he had discovered that on the true god tier battlefield, most of the true gods on the Blazing Sun Empire's side had actually obtained victory and killed the Scarlet true god tier on their side. On their side, it was one thing for them to not be able to block the other party's attack and be killed, but they actually did not even kill a true god tier of the other party. At most, he would only injure the true god tier of the Blazing Sun Empire. In the blink of an eye, these injuries were healed by the true gods of the Blazing Sun Empire with true god tier medicine. After watching for a while, he quickly understood why. That was because they were equipped with 6 true god tier divine artifacts. A total of 6 true god tier divine artifacts was enough for a true god tier elementary grade god spirit to face a true god tier advanced grade god spirit without a true god tier divine artifact without being at a disadvantage. In addition, there was an endless supply of true god tier potions to replenish their divine power. The attack, defense, and endurance of the true god tier were all maxed out. It was naturally not surprising that they could achieve such results. He looked at the battlefield of the god spirits and soldiers, and his expression improved for a while. This was because he saw his god spirits and soldiers suppressing the other party's god spirits and soldiers. This was because he saw his god spirits and soldiers suppressing the other party's god spirits and soldiers. Still, a strange look appeared in his eyes. They were clearly suppressing the other party, but why didn't the other party's military strength and number of god spirits decrease? He had clearly seen the other party die in battle. He suddenly widened his eyes. This was because he had just seen a human high-tier deity, level god spirit that had clearly died fly out of Cosmos Emperor and rejoined the battle. Resurrection. That's right. The intelligence did indeed record that the Blazing Sun Empire has a certain level of resurrection ability. However, the other party actually continuously revive their troops and god spirits to rejoin the battle. Are the goddess of life and the master god tier of death related to each other? He said in disbelief. Then, he pondered for a moment and quickly made a decision. He did not believe that the other party could resurrect his forces indefinitely. Since the other party wanted to fight a war of attrition, they, who had the advantage in numbers and the advantage of god spirits, had no reason to reject such a thing. Comparing consumption? They were not afraid at all. Let's see what the Blazing Sun Empire can do once their revival resources are used up. Therefore, under the decision of this true god-tier leader, the Scarlet Army continued to fight the army of the Blazing Sun Empire. During this period, the true god tiers of the Blazing Sun Empire, who had killed all the true gods of Scarlet, also joined the god spirit level combat zone and helped their own god spirits salvage some of the situation. However, in the face of more than 8 million Scarlet god spirits, they were still suppressed. Time passed slowly. Another half an hour passed. A Scarlet attendant suddenly ran over and said respectfully to the Scarlet true god tier leader, "Reporting to your excellency, the Black Capital Scarlet Empire and the Scarlet Red Empire have led more than 800 trillion soldiers, more than 12 million god spirits, and more than 500 true God-tier worshippers to provide support. They will be here soon. True God-tier Scarlet frowned slightly. This was troublesome. He had delayed for too long. Even those who were trying to steal the credit were here. It seemed that he could not take all the credit for himself. Don't worry about them. He waved his hand helplessly. Yes, Your Excellency. The Scarlet attendant retreated. Inside Cosmos Emperor. Your Majesty, a new enemy has appeared and is rushing towards us. The voice of the intelligent life form of Cosmos Emperor sounded. Then, a map appeared in front of Zhou Fight, who was leisurely drinking tea. It was marked with the 2 high-level Scarlet Empires, as well as the other seas of Scarlet God Spirits and True God Tiers. Get 2-star Alliance Masters who have grasped Legendary Tier Insight Defection to instigate these 2 high-level Scarlet Empire factions. Also, get the Insight Defection personnel to hold back and pause for the next orders. Then we retreat, Zhou Fight said. The combined strength of these 3 factions and the number of God spirits was not something he could deal with his current strength. He still needed to take it slow. Oh right. Zhou Fight suddenly believed of something and said, didn't the Chaos Scarlet Empire send many high-level Scarlet Empire subordinates to the edge of the Scarlet Army to guard against our sneak attack? Next, when Bai Yun and the others go to launch a sneak attack, they can specially find the defensive positions of these high-level Scarlet Empires to launch a sneak attack. Then, they can get the Lords of the Star Alliance to use the Insight Defection and incite all 93 high-level Scarlet Empires. Remember to hand over the Chaos Scarlet Empire to this Emperor. Zhou Fight was very interested in this Chaos Scarlet Empire as he wondered if the other party had anything to do with his Chaos human bloodline. On the battlefield, Bai Yun quickly received Zhou Fight's order. All troops, listen up. The enemy's reinforcements are attacking. We'll retreat immediately. He immediately ordered the entire army. When the soldiers heard Bai Yun's order, they immediately repelled the enemy in front of them. Then, they retreated as quickly as possible and flew towards Cosmos Emperor. Stop them. Don't let them escape. When the Scarlet True God-tier leader of the Dark Gloom Scarlet Empire saw this scene, his expression darkened and he hurriedly ordered. The Scarlet soldiers immediately rushed forward, wanting to catch up and stop the retreating soldiers of the Blazing Sun Empire. But at this moment, all kinds of scenes suddenly appeared before their eyes. These scenes seemed to be what they were thinking in their hearts, captivating the fog monsters and trapping them in place. Only a very small number of people with strong mental willpower could barely see that it was a dream scene created by the array. However, it was one thing to see through it, but it was another to crack it. They struggled with all their might, using all sorts of abilities in an attempt to break free from the array's illusion. However, to outsiders, they seemed to be blind as they fled in all directions. As true God-tier Scarlet had been guarding the rear, he didn't fall into the illusion. When he saw the soldiers on his side running around like they were mentally unstable, his eyes immediately widened. Following that, he was enraged. D*MN formation. Common People's Regal. If you have the ability, don't hide behind the array. Let's fight head-on. Weren't you fighting well just now? Why did you suddenly run away? You coward. He roared at the sky. If you want to fight one-on-one, go back and tell your leader, AUS, so that his chaotic Scarlet Empire and this Emperor's Blazing Sun Empire can fight one-on-one fairly. If this coward AUS doesn't dare, shut up for this Emperor obediently. TSK Tisk. More than 50,000 Scarlet Empire tier forces and 1,000,000 Crimson Kingdom level forces will attack this Emperor's Blazing Sun Empire together. Where did you get the face to say such things to this Emperor? Are all the subordinates of Lord Crimson Overlord as thick-skinned as you? Zhou Fight's disdainful voice resounded throughout the entire sky. All the Scarlet life forms present heard it. Many powerhouses among the Scarlet life forms wished they could crawl into the cracks to hide their embarrassment. The words of this Common People's Regal had revealed something that they had never wanted to face. That was, the moment they gathered their army, they had already imperceptibly admitted that in terms of one-on-one battles, none of the Scarlet forces present could defeat the Blazing Sun Empire of the Common People's Regal. Therefore, in the end, he could only rely on group attacks to deal with the other party. The Scarlet True God Tier's words made them feel awkward. After hearing Zhou Fight's words, True God Tier Scarlet flew into a rage out of humiliation. He opened his mouth and realized that he could not refute. At this moment, the Scarlet soldiers suddenly realized that the illusion in front of them had suddenly disappeared. Along with the illusion, the corpses of the soldiers of the Blazing Sun Empire and the two sides of the battle also disappeared. The Scarlet True God Tier leader and the other Scarlet God spirits looked at the empty scene in front of them with ugly expressions, especially when they knew that they had not obtained any battle results, not even a single loot. Their expressions instantly became even uglier. Retreat. In the end, True God Tier Scarlet could only say fiercely. Even though the Scarlet soldiers were unwilling, they could only listen to orders and retreat. On their way back, they also encountered the Scarlet Empire of Black Capital and the Scarlet Red Empire. When they saw the Dark Gloom Scarlet Empire's army, the leader of the two True God Tiers immediately flew over and asked, "Where's the common people's regal?" "Already gone." The Dark Gloom Scarlet Empire's True God Tier leader said gloomily. "He ran away?" The two Scarlet True God Tier leaders were immediately dumbfounded. "You have so many troops surrounding the other party, but not only did you not take them down, you even let them escape." "Humph." The Dark Gloom Scarlet Empire's True God Tier leader said angrily. "Do you think I want them to run? The common people's regal spaceship is slippery. Our spaceship can't catch up to him at all. Moreover, the other party has an array comparable to a Master God Tier. Once the array is activated, the other party can fight and run if he wants. What can we do?" The two True God Tier leaders looked at each other in disbelief. An array comparable to a Master God Tier? This common people's regal had such a foundation? Where's your True God Tier? The True God Tier leader of the Scarlet Red Empire suddenly discovered something and asked curiously. The True God Tier leader of the Dark Gloom Scarlet Empire did not say anything. "Don't tell me that the 600-odd True God Tiers you led have all died." The True God Tier God Spirit leader of the Black Capital asked in confusion. "Huh? He really died in battle? That's more than 600 Scarlet True God Tiers. How did you do it? You're finished. Even if you're the True God Tier leader of the Dark Gloom Scarlet Empire, this battle has caused the deaths of so many True God Tiers. You won't be able to escape punishment." The expressions of the two True God Tiers changed slightly as they looked at the True God Tier leader of the Scarlet Empire. That was more than 600 Scarlet True God Tiers. From the start of the Tribulation of 10,000 Races event until now, the number of True God Tier deaths was probably not much more than this number. No matter how much the king of the empire behind him wanted to cover up this matter, he could not. After this battle, he would probably not have a good ending. "I'll report it to the king and then go to your excellency AUS to receive my punishment." The Dark Gloom Scarlet Empire True God Tier raised his head and said coldly. Then, he did not say anything else and led the army away. The two Scarlet True God Tier leaders remained silent. Looking at his attitude, he doesn't seem unconvinced. This common people's regal seems to be really strong. The True God Tier leader of the Black Capital said, "It's just a sneak attack." The True God Tier leader of the Scarlet Red Empire said disdainfully. "Speaking of which, since the other party has already escaped, why did they ambush our two factions before leaving? Moreover, they ambushed us and ran away. They didn't fight at all and didn't pursue the results of the battle. Why do you think they did this?" The Black Capital's True God Tier chief inquired curiously. On the way here, they were inexplicably ambushed by the Blazing Sun Empire. Then, the other party used Cosmos Emperor to retreat, leaving them unable to react. Maybe they don't like us? The True God Tier leader of the Scarlet Red Empire guessed. Maybe. The Black Capital's True God Tier chief shook his head. Then, the two God spirits didn't say anything else and led the army to retreat. Inside Cosmos Emperor, Nong Xinglin and the paper Immortal Lord reported to Zhou Fight excitedly. "Your Majesty, I've instigated the Insight defection to send more than 280 billion Crimson soldiers, more than 3,000 Scarlet God spirits, and 3 Scarlet True God Tiers. Your Majesty, I have also instigated more than 410 billion Crimson soldiers, more than 5,000 scarlet god spirits, and 5 scarlet true god tiers. Okay, Zhou Fight could not help but smile. Even though this battle was an unprecedented calamity for them, if they dealt with it well, it would also be an unprecedented opportunity. The current insight defection proved this point. He had incited trillions of soldiers, more than 12,000 crimson god spirits, and 14 scarlet true god tiers in just 3 insight defections. This number was comparable to the total military strength of a complete beginner-level divine Kingdom Lord faction. Your Majesty, I also have good news to report. In the combat just now, a total of 1,061 legendary tier advanced grade troops advanced to low-tier deity level elementary grade god spirits, and 5 high-tier deity level advanced grade god spirits advanced to true god tier elementary grade god spirits. Bai Yun said. Just one step to the side where the 5 newly advanced true god tiers behind him stood up and uttered respectfully to Zhou Fight in high spirits. Greetings, Your Majesty, X5. Good, good. Zhou Fight was overjoyed. He looked at the 5 new true god tiers. 3 of them were newly advanced true god tiers of the human race, and the other 2 were newly advanced true god tiers. One was a newly advanced true god tier of the fog monster, and the other was a newly advanced true god tier of the Blood Moon clan. Zhou Fight was satisfied. War. It is indeed the best place to train the strong. In just one battle, so many god spirits and true god tier had been created. Such a situation had never happened even in the past extermination wars. As he thought about it, he waved his right hand and saw 5 world rings fly out of his hand and land in front of him. This is the benefit of your true god tier. As usual, there are a total of 6 pieces in a set of true god tier elementary grade true god divine artifacts. You can choose one of your own true god tier divine artifacts. The remaining 5 true god tier divine artifacts can be considered as a loan from this emperor to you. When you have established enough military merits, you can directly buy the remaining true god tier divine artifacts. Zhou Fight said with a smile. Thank you for your gift, Your Majesty. When the 5 newly advanced true god tiers heard His Majesty's words, they looked at the spatial ring in front of them, and their eyes immediately burned. These were 6 true god tier divine artifacts. If he wore it, even if he was a newly advanced true god tier, he could easily kill a true god tier of the same level. Even if it was an intermediate true god tier god spirit, as long as it was not restrained by the nomological path, it could completely crush the other party and had a chance of killing the other party. Even if he had to fight head-on with a true god tier advanced grade god spirit, he could advance the other party without being at a disadvantage for a short period of time. This was the terrifying aspect of a set of 6 true god tier divine artifacts. If it was taken to the outside world, it would be enough to make countless god spirits and true god tiers in the myriad worlds go crazy. His Majesty actually handed it over to him so easily. His Majesty's generosity was indeed the most profound after experiencing it personally. Zhou Fight smiled and nodded. Your Majesty, there's one more thing. In the battle just now, we killed a total of about 125 trillion scarlet soldiers, 520,000 scarlet god spirits, and all the true god tier. Among them, 12 trillion scarlet soldiers and 50,000 scarlet god spirits were destroyed by us. With the help of the supreme strength, they reconstructed their bodies and souls and returned to their previous appearances. How should we treat these life forms? Bai Yun asked. How are their physical and mental states? Did they suffer from amnesia? Do they still have the supernatural powers they had during the fog monster era? Do they still remember when they were scarlet monsters? Zhou Fight asked. Their physical and mental states are very good. Some of the living beings who were disabled when they were alive have even recovered from their old injuries after reconstruction. They are even healthier than ordinary life forms. In terms of strength, even though they have returned to normal living beings, their strength and realm have not changed. I've tested them. They seem to have perfectly inherited the strength and combat experience of the monster era. I've also asked them about their memories. They said that they've already forgotten their memories of when they were fog monsters. The question they asked me the most was how many years it is in the Supreme Calendar. Bai Yun answered, Have you forgotten? Zhou Fight muttered to himself. It's good to forget. It's also good to forget. I don't have to worry about being a monster anymore. Let them choose. If they are willing to stay in our blazing sun empire, give them the status of subjects. If you want to join the army, give them a class change certificate and let them become an empire tier soldier type and join our main combat army. If you want to leave, let them leave. There's no need to force them to stay. After the statistics are done, tell this emperor tonight. Zhou Fight said. He sighed inwardly. This was the terror of the mythical tier, the only Lord Talent, Scarlet natural enemy. After fighting a war, the total number of soldiers on their side increased instead of decreasing. However, the other party's military strength was greatly reduced. With this, the gap between them would only grow larger. No wonder it was called a natural enemy. Yes, Your Majesty, Bai Yin said respectfully. Then, he ordered the army to rest for half an hour before continuing with the sneak attack plan. And he began to extract the corpses of the 600-odd true god tier. Zhou Fight was quite satisfied with the result. Among these 600-odd true gods, a total of 11,350 true god tier divine artifacts and 24 master god tier divine artifacts had dropped. Even though they were all elementary grade master god tier divine artifacts, Zhou Fight was already very satisfied. At the same time, AUS also received the results of the war. What? Your troops and the number of god spirits are 100 times weaker than the other party, but they still managed to escape? Not only did they escape, the Scarlet True God tier you led was also completely wiped out. AUS spoke in disbelief. Then, his face gradually revealed anger. Reporting to Your Excellency AUS, the enemy's battleships are extremely fast. We can't catch up to them at all. In addition, the enemy has an array that's comparable to the strength of an elementary grade master god tier. When it comes to war, they can fight and retreat whenever they want. We can't stop them at all. Furthermore, the strength of the common people's regal is also extremely terrifying. He has a powerful master god tier trump card that allows him to forcefully possess master god tier combat strength. More than 100 of our Scarlet True God tiers were defeated by the other party alone. Even though we did let the other party escape, it's not that we're useless. It's just that the other party's power is indeed powerful. The true God tier leader of the Dark Gloom Scarlet Empire said in a deep voice. AUS did not speak. Instead, he pulled up the video of the battle. When he finished reading it, he couldn't help but frown deeply. At this moment, he no longer blamed him. This common people's regal had many methods, and all of them were extremely effective in war. Even he felt a headache when he saw it now, let alone the other party. The only good news was that the common people's regal seemed to have fallen into a weakened state after using the Master God tier secret technique. This was a good opportunity to pursue the victory. He didn't hesitate and immediately called a general over. Pass down my orders. From now on, the entire army will be on high alert. As soon as the Blazing Sun Empire's flying ship is discovered, the entire army will immediately move out, determined to keep the other party here. All the true God tier intermediate grade battleships in our army are in skirmish readiness, ready to take off and pursue the other party at any time. Yes. The general left immediately after receiving the order. AUS continued to watch the skirmish video. Scarlet Natural Enemy? He actually made Your Excellency Crimson Overlords specially issue a mission? What's their situation? AUS gazed at the true God tier leader of the Scarlet Empire. Seeing this, the true God tier leader immediately told the other party everything he knew. His combat power is astonishing at the same level. He can crush fog soldiers and even scarlet life forms at the same level. Moreover, after killing the soldiers on their side, they will transform the existences that were life forms of the Supreme Continent when they were alive back to their normal life forms when they were alive. No wonder it's called Scarlet Natural Enemy. AUS narrowed his eyes. He had a premonition. If he could eliminate this group of Scarlet Natural Enemy, he would definitely be able to obtain a large number of rewards from the Crimson Overlord. Common People's Regal, oh Common People's Regal. You give me more surprises every time I hear about your deeds. He muttered to himself. The morning light was faint. On the battlefield, Bai Yun once again led an army to launch a sneak attack and instigate inside defection. When the Scarlet forces guarding this place saw this scene, they were immediately extremely angry. How many times had this happened? They had ambushed them more than 100 times in one night. Every time they finished a round of true God-tier attacks, they would escape without bothering about the results. Could the purpose of these guys be only to launch a sneak attack and not to fight and kill? Which branch of the Blazing Sun Empire did you come from this time? The true God-tier leader stationed here asked. The Blazing Sun Empire's sneak attack army didn't attack together like before. Instead, they were divided into 10 sneak attacks teams, each piloting a Cosmos Emperor to carry out a sneak attack mission. Only then could they launch more than 100 sneak attacks on them in one night. Reporting to Your Excellency, it's the Demon Flood Dragon race's true god, Dickens, and his subordinates. At the moment, our army has already sent troops to chase after them. The Scarlet soldier in charge of gathering information said respectfully. True God-tier Scarlet nodded with an ugly expression. He wasn't too optimistic about their pursuit. Even though they had been equipped with a true God-tier intermediate-grade battleship according to Your Excellency House's orders, the other party's battleship seemed to be even more slippery. Every time it looked like it was about to catch up, it was always just a little bit away from letting the other party escape. They were very unwilling to accept this situation, but they could not stop. He could only send more soldiers, god spirits, and battleships to surround and kill the other party every time the other party launched another sneak attack, in an attempt to eliminate them all. At the same time, the true god tier of the Demon Flood Dragon race, Dickens, stood in the combat conference room and looked at the Scarlet Army chasing after his Cosmos Emperor through virtual exterior mode. The other party is getting closer. The Insight defection mission has been completed. Let Your Excellency Mechanical Elven stop the other party for a while, then we'll retreat. Dickens said. The Mechanical Elven has been requested to fight. Mechanical Elven is in position. On the Cosmos Emperor, 10 Mechanical Elven flew up from their respective battle positions accompanied by a low rumble. They were 9 low-level true God-tier ordinary Mechanical Elven guards and 1 ultimate Mechanical Elven. There was a very obvious difference between the two. Ordinary Mechanical Elven guards were completely silver and had 12,000 silver mechanical wings on their backs. The ultimate Mechanical Elven was entirely golden in color and had 24,000 golden mechanical wings on its back. As for the ultimate Elven commander, Wunya, she was completely black. She wore a black helmet that covered her eyes, black silk gloves, and a sword at her waist. She had 36,000 black mechanical wings on her back. When the 10 Mechanical Elven were out, they immediately faced the true God-tier intermediate-grade Scarlet battleships, chasing after them. Lock on. All Scarlet God spirits locked. Activate God-slaying wings. Buzz. Alohum sounded. Then, the bodies of the 10 Mechanical Elven suddenly lit up with a dazzling light. Right on the heels of that, when the energy was accumulated to the extreme, every mechanical wing on the backs of the 10 Mechanical Elven emitted silver and golden rays. When the energy was accumulated to the extreme, every mechanical wing on the backs of the 10 Mechanical Elven emitted silver and golden rays. These Scarlet God spirits range from low-tier deity level elementary grade to high-tier deity level advanced grade Scarlet God spirits. In a split second, 132,000 Scarlet God spirits died because their divine spark shattered. D***. The leader, true God-tier Scarlet, was enraged. But before he could do anything, another round of God-slaying light descended from the sky and killed another 132,000 Scarlet God spirits. Run. Pay attention to defense. Your Excellency, save me. The Scarlet God spirits panicked and fled in all directions. However, it was useless. This was because in the short span of less than a minute, the Mechanical Elven were like precise and terrifying God-slaying machines. Every round of attack could accurately kill 132,000 Scarlet God spirits. No matter how the Scarlet God spirit defended or what other methods it used, it could not stop the killing of the God-slaying light. When the other true God tiers saw this scene, they also tried to protect their God spirits. However, the Mechanical Elven's attacks came with lock-on attacks, and their penetrative power was extremely strong. The defense that these Scarlet True God tier had set up for the Scarlet God spirits was completely useless. They were easily penetrated and then killed the Scarlet God spirits protected inside. D**M*. The attacks of these Machina race God spirits won't cause much damage to us if they are used on us. However, for ordinary Scarlet God spirits, it's enough to kill them instantly. A true God tier bullying an ordinary God spirit. How shameless. A true God tier Scarlet cursed. The other divine level Scarlet remained silent. Most of them agreed with what he said. However, a small number of divine level Scarlet felt that something was amiss. We've already used 100 times the number of troops to fight you, and you still want to talk to us about rules? However, they naturally would not say that out loud. They looked ahead. The space in front of them was empty. Cosmos Emperor had already made use of the attack to make him disappear. Even though the Scarlet True God tiers were furious, there was nothing they could do. Similar scenes often occurred in the ambush forces of the Blazing Sun Empire. This was because Zhou Fight had allocated 10 mechanical elven to each sneak attack team to deal with such a situation. For example, the 10 rounds of attacks from the 10 mechanical elven had consumed a total of 100 divine level divine crystals. Even divine kingdom lords did not dare to fight like this. It was only because Zhou Fight relied upon the King of Loots that he dared to use the mechanical elven, which consumed a lot of energy. At the same time, just as the forces of the Blazing Sun Empire was fighting outside. The Blazing Sun Empire. Inside the Samsara Temple, Zhou Zhou opened his eyes. He felt the divine pressure that had greatly increased, and a smile appeared upon his face. I've finally reached the mid-tier deity level elementary grade. This checkpoint took him a long time. He had finally broken through. Then, he took a look at the information of his law skill, King, and the smile upon his face intensified. This was because his nomological skill, King, had been upgraded to the mid-tier deity level, elementary grade. It was shocking that he could already add 20% of the subject's power to him. This was undoubtedly a huge improvement for him, who now controlled a massive number of soldiers and god spirits. After being happy, he first checked the memories from Zhou Fight. Then, he nodded slightly. He was very satisfied with his subordinate's performance. To be able to launch a sneak attack in front of such a magnanimous enemy, even with Zhou Fight's judgment, there was nothing to be picky about. Still, Ao's forces are still too powerful. I've already replenished the origin power in my body. I can find another helper for Zhou Fight. Zhou Zhou thought. Then, he didn't hesitate. He immediately consumed half of his origin power and used the doppelganger technique to create another clone. Greetings, main body. The clone said politely to Zhou Zhou. Your name is Zhou Marshall. You should already know why I summoned you. From now on, when Zhou Fight goes out to fight, you should follow him. Go and help Zhou Fight deal with AUS now. Zhou Zhou asked. All right, main body. Zhou Marshall nodded and immediately teleported away. When Zhou Zhou saw he disappear and sensed that he had depleted a book of origin energy, he did not mind. He casually took out a divine medicine that could replenish the origin energy of a true god tier advanced grade and swallowed it. Sensing that the origin in his body was rapidly replenishing, Zhou Zhou nodded slightly. Then, he flew out of the Reincarnation Sacred Palace and arrived at Mu Gu's residence. Greetings, Your Majesty. Mu Gu said respectfully. Has the Homeland Defense Army entered? Zhou Zhou asked after sitting down. Your Majesty, Legion Commander Wu Xian has already led the soldiers of the Homeland Defense Army to advance in 15 minutes. Mu Gu smiled. Zhou Zhou nodded. Now, the Blazing Sun Army and the other main forces were not around. The job of dealing with the Scarlet Broodmother Ranch monsters could only be left to the Homeland Defense Army. Fortunately, this matter was not difficult. With Wu Xian's ability and experience, coupled with the strength of the Homeland Defense Army, it was easy to do. A moment later, a golden dragon-shaped light flew out of the Scarlet Broodmother and landed in front of him. Wu Xian greets Your Majesty. Wu Xian said respectfully. How does it feel to be Legion Commander Wu's first time doing such a job? Zhou Zhou asked with a smile. It feels quite relaxing. Wu Xian smiled. This job was much easier than his previous affairs in the army. He knew what His Majesty meant. He wanted him to retire, and he gladly accepted it. Then, he took out the 3 spatial rings. 2 of the spatial rings contained class change certificates and recruitment books. The last spatial ring contained other loots. Zhou Zhou took them all and looked over. The first spatial ring contained 4.8 trillion yellow talisman Dao soldier recruitment books and 4.8 trillion violent storm spirit recruitment books. The second spatial ring contained 4.8 trillion copies of the yellow talisman Dao soldier class change certificate and 4.8 trillion copies of the violent storm spirit class change certificate. Even though he was prepared, he couldn't help but take a deep breath when he saw so many recruitment books and class change certificates. If he used all these recruitment books and class change certificates, his territory would directly increase by 19.2 trillion recruits. That was nearly 20 trillion soldiers. He only had nearly 10 trillion soldiers before last night. Today's cleaning up of the Scarlet Broodmother had tripled the number of troops under him. Scarlet Broodmother was so terrifying. He looked at the spatial ring in his hand and then handed the spatial ring containing the recruitment books to Wu Xian. Just like Bai Yun, bring the class change certificate to the reserve recruits and let them change their professions to become official Yellow Talisman Dao soldiers and violent storm spirits. Then, let the violent storm spirits go to the forbidden archmage statue and change their professions to forbidden mages. Finally, let all the soldiers join our main combat army. Zhou Zhou said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Wu Xian nodded solemnly. He knew what was in the spatial ring, so he naturally knew that His Majesty had given him such an important task. With so many new recruits, it was enough to increase the Empire's strength explosively again. Then, he left without saying a word. When Zhou Zhou saw this, he brought the spatial ring containing the recruitment books to the Gate of Summoning. He looked at the Gate of Summoning in front of him and called Cosmos Emperor. As a true God-tier advanced grade battleship, the Cosmos Emperor's internal space was comparable to an entire middle world, not to mention 10 trillion soldiers. Even Bai Zhao, Qiao Zhao, and even Wan Zhao soldiers could fit in. Then, he took out the 4.8 trillion yellow talisman Dao soldier recruitment books and the 4.8 trillion violent storm spirit recruitment books from his spatial ring and threw them all into the Gate of Summoning. Then, he used 100 low-tier deity-level intermediate grade divine crystals to recruit all the new recruits and placed them on Cosmos Emperor, which had just flown over. Then, he took out the 4.8 trillion yellow talisman Dao soldier recruitment books and the 4.8 trillion violent storm spirit recruitment books from his spatial ring and threw them all into the Gate of Summoning. Then, he used 100 low-tier deity-level intermediate grade divine crystals to recruit all the new recruits and placed them on Cosmos Emperor, which had just flown over. After all the task transitions were completed, they would go and support Zhou Fight and the others. After they finished their class advancement, in the distant temple of the goddess of magic, the aura on Su Yuan's body, which was in seclusion, suddenly soared by a large margin. He suddenly opened his eyes, and a divine light flashed in them. At this moment, a beautiful figure instantly appeared in front of him. Su Yuan. The goddess of magic gazed at him in surprise. Su Yuan smiled and nodded. "I've already comprehended my master god-tier Dao. Combine it with the will technique you gave me. Combine it with the will technique you gave me. I have to thank the common people's regal. If it weren't for the subjects under him constantly providing me with the power of faith as a forbidden mage, I'm afraid I won't be able to advance to a forbidden mage so quickly," he said. "Congratulations, future master god-tier expert," the goddess of magic uttered with a smile. Then, he inquired curiously, "What do you plan to do after you become a master god-tier?" "I can't let down the kindness of achieving the Tao. From now on, the path of the common people's regal's growth will probably be dangerous. I plan to protect him until he no longer needs me," Su Yuan uttered directly. Then, he gazed at the goddess of magic. "Mistra, are you willing to come with me? Protect the common people's regal?" The goddess of magic pondered for a moment and shook her head. "He isn't qualified for me to protect. Furthermore, He has made too many enemies, especially the original spirit race. They have a certain friendship with me. With this relationship, I can't join his camp. All right. Disappointment flashed across Su Yuan's eyes, but he did not force her. Next, I'm going into seclusion to become a master god tier. I need you to protect me. Who else can do it? The goddess of magic snorted and said, be careful. It's extremely difficult to become a master god tier. It's completely different from the advancement of the gods before the master god tier. Don't die during the advancement process. Don't worry. I am courting death. Su Yuan smiled. The goddess of magic nodded. On the other side, Zhou Zhou naturally didn't know that because of him, humanity was about to welcome the first master god tier existence. At this moment, he was looking at the gate of summoning, preparing to summon his new subjects and new god spirits. In front of the gate of summoning, Zhou Zhou looked at the towering door. Prompt: do you want to summon immediately? Yes. Zhou Zhou answered in his heart. Then, he immediately spent 100 low-tier deity level intermediate grade divine crystals to summon all 3,289,500 new subjects from the gate of summoning. Greetings, my lord. X3, 289, 500. All the new subjects shouted respectfully. Welcome to the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Zhou Zhou smiled and nodded. Then, he got all the professionals and god spirits to step forward and discovered that he had summoned a total of 3,866 professionals and 10 low-tier deity level intermediate grade god spirits. He summoned 856 more professionals than usual. Zhou Zhou did not notice these professionals. His eyes were all on the 10 low-tier deity level intermediate grade god spirits. Zhou Zhou looked at the 10 low-tier deity level intermediate grade god spirits who were extremely respectful to him and smiled. Even though he no longer lacked these 10 low-level god spirits, the feeling of freeloading was pleasant. Then, he checked the attribute information of the 10 low-tier deity level elementary grade god spirits. Then, he felt that it was a pity. This was because he discovered that these 10 god spirits were all combat-type god spirits. There were no life-type god spirits. It seemed that even god spirits who walked out of the gate of summoning were extremely rare. However, even though he did not discover any life-type god spirits, he was shocked to discover that the potential of these 10 low-tier deity level intermediate grade god spirits was at least that of a high-tier deity level elementary grade. There was even a true god tier intermediate grade god. It had to be known that these 10 god spirits were all human god spirits. Their potential was not high to begin with. Even with the Sword of Xian Yuan increasing their potential by a large level, humans with potential at the god spirit level were still extremely rare. Not to mention humans with true god tier potential. For countless years, before Zhou Zhou appeared, only the Yellow Emperor and the other 5 true god tier leaders could tell. He did not expect the human god spirits summoned by the gate of summoning to have such high potential. Is this considered a hidden benefit? Zhou Zhou stroked his chin and thought to himself. After thinking for a while, he didn't think too much about it since he couldn't figure it out. In any case, it wouldn't do him any harm. Then, he got the staff at the side to arrange for these new subjects and god spirits. Then, he came to the Lord's shop alone. Greetings, Your Majesty. Zhou Qingmin, who was eating roasted meat and drinking wine in front of the shop, stood up and chuckled. You're quite free and elegant, aren't you? What's the goods for today? Zhou Zhou asked with a smile. People have to enjoy life. As Zhou Qingmin spoke, he walked behind the counter and took out 3 white boxes. He opened the 3 boxes one by one, revealing the goods inside. Zhou Zhou took a look and was stunned. This was because these 3 goods were actually 3 law skill books. Moreover, they were not ordinary law skill books, and they were all Crimson law skill books. They were True God Tier Advanced Grade Law Skill, Blood Curtain. True God Tier Advanced Grade Law Skill, Chaos Order. True God Tier Advanced Grade Law Skill, Bewitching God. Zhou Zhou looked at the 3 Crimson law skill books and compared them with the memories in his heart. He quickly saw that these 3 law skill books were all law skills mastered by the Lords of the Star Alliance today. After using Insight Defection, they had turned the tables on True God Tier Scarlet. This law skill is useless to me. Zhou Zhou frowned slightly, and said helplessly, "He was a god who walked the Lord's law." The Lord's law represented absolute order and absolute control. The Crimson Law was the complete opposite of the Lord Law. It represented absolute disorder and absolute chaos. The two were not on the same path. It was a waste of time for him to study this. The two were not on the same path. It was a waste of time for him to study this. Of course, most importantly, after he embarked on the path of the Lord's law, the Crimson Law seemed to have automatically blocked him. The difficulty of comprehending the Crimson Law was almost 10 times or more than comprehending the Lord's law. The Lord's law was already difficult enough to comprehend. This was also the main reason why he had given up on the Crimson Law. "Your Majesty, do you feel that the three goods today are not suitable for you?" At this moment, Zhou Chengmin suddenly laughed. "Indeed." Zhou Zhou nodded. "If it can be used by my subordinates, I will directly reward my subordinates, the true God-tier Scarlet. But it doesn't have a special label that can be used by subordinates. In other words, only I can use it. But I'm a Lord Nomological God Spirit. I can't comprehend this Crimson Law." Towards the end, he shook his head regretfully. The Crimson Law was extremely powerful and was only slightly inferior to the Lord's Law. Of course, he also wanted to grasp it. However, it was difficult to have both worldly affairs. "Your Majesty, you should know the source of my goods, right?" "Oh, Lord Supreme will," Zhou Zhou said without thinking. Then, he was taken aback as though he had guessed something. He gazed at Zhou Chengmin and said in surprise, "Could it be that these three items were personally sent by the Supreme Will?" Then, he was taken aback as though he had guessed something. He gazed at Zhou Chengmin and said in surprise, "Could it be that these three items were personally sent by the Supreme Will?" The Supreme Will knows that Your Majesty's speed of comprehending the Lord's laws has been a little slow recently. So he specially sent these three Crimson Law skills over and inquired me to tell Your Majesty something. The Lord's laws govern all laws. All laws are within the Lord's laws. The Crimson Law is no exception, especially since the Crimson Law is a law that opposes the Lord Law. If we can cultivate both and compare them, His Majesty's Lord Law and Crimson Law will definitely improve by leaps and bounds. As for the problem of getting unable to comprehend it, Your Majesty can try to transform into a scarlet life form and comprehend the Crimson Law technique. This should be more beneficial for understanding the Crimson Law and indirectly increase the comprehension of the Lord's Law. Is that so? Zhou Zhou frowned slightly. But I once transformed into a scarlet life form to comprehend the Lord's laws. It didn't work. Zhou Zhou had the three heaven-defying Lord talents, the King, the Reincarnation Sacred Palace, and the Scarlet Natural Enemy. Zhou Zhou had the three heaven-defying Lord talents, the King, the Reincarnation Sacred Palace, and the Scarlet Natural Enemy. He had naturally tried understanding the Crimson Law before. However, it was not very useful. The isolation caused by the opposing laws still existed. Your Majesty, you transformed into a Scarlet God Spirit back then, right? The God Spirit's nomological path has already been confirmed, and it's indeed impossible to comprehend the Crimson Law. Zhou Chengmin grinned and said, I know that Your Majesty has the ability to control a clone. Next time, why don't you create a legendary tier advanced grade clone and transform into a scarlet life form to comprehend the Lord's Law? This might have a different effect. Zhou Zhou was stunned. He had never tried such a method before. This emperor will try next time, Zhou Zhou said. Zhou Chengmin nodded. Then, the two of them chatted for a while about comprehending the Crimson Law. Finally, Zhou Zhou couldn't help but say, Did the Supreme will really ask you to tell me what you said just now? Of course. Zhou Chengmin was speechless. Otherwise, would I have thought of it myself? I'm just a life form created by a Lord talent. Why is the Supreme will suddenly paying so much attention to me? Zhou Zhou asked curiously. His Majesty's performance in every event of the Supreme will is quite outstanding. It's not surprising for him to receive the attention of the Supreme will. Furthermore, the Scarlet Invasion Force is coming aggressively this time. I'm guessing that the Supreme will also intends to nurture lords of all races like you, especially you. So he specially reminded you. Zhou Chengmin voiced his guess. Zhou Zhou pondered for a few seconds and could only accept this explanation. This was indeed the most suitable reason to answer this matter among all the things he knew. Then, he stopped thinking and pointed at the 3 items. How many mist cores do these 3 law skills have? 10,000 legendary tier mist cores for each law skill. That adds up to 30,000. Legendary tier mist cores. Zhou Zhou nodded. Then he took out 30,000 legendary tier mist cores and handed them to the other party, exchanging them for the 3 law skill books. Then he directly used it. Then he tried to comprehend the Lord's laws again. Soon, he gave up on such behavior. Even though he was already a Lord-level God spirit, it was still very difficult for him to comprehend the Crimson Law. When he created the next legendary tier advanced grade clone, he would use the clone to comprehend it. Zhou Zhou thought. At this moment, an email suddenly came from his personal terminal. Zhou Zhou opened the email and found that it was a summary of the war last night sent by Zero. He looked over from last night to this morning. Zhou fight led by Yun and the other main combat troops to attack our Scarlet Army a total of 115 times. These 115 attacks had wiped out a total of 153 trillion Scarlet soldiers, 18,311,560 Scarlet God spirits, and 1,021 Scarlet True God tiers. He obtained billions of mist cores of various levels, origin crystals, skill books, equipment, basic materials, basic gem resources, lightning, life, and death elemental gems. 27,532,151,777 green bronze tier Lord Talent crystal fragments. 152 Scarlet Lord Talent spheres of different levels, and a large number of other Lord Talent crystal fragments. More than 350 million units of time elemental gems. More than 431 million units of space elemental gems. 3,102,020,000,000 units of divine crystals from low-tier deity level to high-tier deity level. 31,266,521,520 true God-tier divine crystals. 318,670 master God-tier divine crystals. More than 156,050,000,000 divine artifacts ranging from low-tier to high-tier deity level. 1,566,088 true God-tier divine artifacts. 126 master God-tier divine artifacts. There were a total of about 12,010,000,000 divine spark fragments, God-tier medicinal herbs, God-tier ingredients, God-tier ores, God-tier blueprints, and other treasures. 2,951,250 master God-tier herbs, God-tier ingredients, God-tier ores, God-tier blueprints, and other treasures. Other than these normal gains, there was no need to talk about the other fragmented gains. Zhou Zhou's gaze first landed on the huge number of Lord Talent crystal fragments and 152 Scarlet Lord Talent spheres. So many Lord Talent crystal fragments, and so many Lord Talent spheres. His eyes lit up. With so many Lord Talent crystal fragments, it was enough for he to upgrade all the Lord Talents in his hands to the mythical tier, unique level. He was excited for a while. Just as he was about to immediately upgrade his Lord Talent, he suddenly thought of something and took out the Bodhi Supreme. Bodhi Supreme, the last time you said that when I advanced to the mid-tier deity level, elementary grade, you would tell me what other uses the Lord Talent crystal fragment has. Can you tell me now? Sure, Bodhi Supreme said lazily. Just do as I said last time. Answer an official question once. Sure. Zhou Zhou nodded. All right, I'll give you an inheritance. You'll know why these Lord Talent crystal fragments are very useful. Bodhi Supreme said. Zhou Zhou was stunned for a moment before he became excited. Didn't I say that the number of times I could solve an official question wouldn't be in vain? Sure enough, there was a real gift. Come on, Zhou Zhou said excitedly. Bodhi Supreme did not speak, but his body emitted a faint holy white light. When Zhou Zhou was illuminated by the white light, a legacy naturally appeared in his mind. This inheritance was called the Supreme Sacred Body. He was a supreme cultivation method of the holy body that the Supreme Will had personally created and was still cultivating. This sacred body had countless abilities. The most basic ability was impenetrable. An existence with the supreme sacred body could be immune to any kind of nomological attack. He was invincible among his peers. Even when facing attacks from higher-level existences, he was immune to most of the other party's damage. Moreover, the supreme sacred body was the strongest constitution in the endless heavens. It could suppress any other constitution. It could be said that among the billions of extraordinary tier constitutions, the supreme sacred body was the strongest constitution. Even the chaotic bloodline that had grown to the extreme could not compare to the supreme sacred body. Apart from that, the supreme sacred body also had countless magical uses. For example, during the cultivation process, he could gradually improve his lord's nomological talent. In fact, during the cultivation process, he would gradually awaken some powerful lord talents and not need to rely on things like the lord talent sphere. In fact, the lord talent of a cultivator would gradually increase under the subtle influence of the supreme sacred body until it reached the only level of the mythical tier. And these weren't his strongest abilities. His most powerful ability was that the supreme sacred body could naturally give birth to the corresponding lord talent according to the environment of the constitution holder to help the constitution holder adapt to the environment and even change it. This effect could be used even in a world beyond the jurisdiction of the supreme will. For example, the owner of the supreme sacred body came to an unfamiliar world and discovered that his body was extremely weak. He wanted to strengthen his body. The supreme sacred body would create a lord talent that could adapt to the laws of this world by consuming energy according to the owner's thoughts. Another example was that the owner of the supreme sacred body was short of money in this world. The supreme sacred body would subtly change the rules of the world, allowing the world to bless the owner of the supreme sacred body. From there, he would have top-notch wealth and could reasonably obtain a large amount of wealth in a short period of time. There were also other lord talents that could be created. It mainly focused on adapting and becoming stronger. However, it was not easy to create such a powerful constitution on his body. This was because if he wanted to successfully cultivate this saint body constitution, he would need to consume a large number of lord talent crystal fragments or even lord talent spheres to change his constitution. Only then could his constitution approach the supreme sacred body and finally become the supreme sacred body. If he wanted to cultivate with all his might, it was very normal to consume hundreds of millions, billions, or even tens of billions of lord talent crystal fragments in a day. If he wanted to cultivate with all his might, it was very normal to consume hundreds of millions, billions, or even tens of billions of lord talent crystal fragments in a day. For example, if all the 27 billion lord talent crystal fragments that Zhou Zhou had just obtained were used up, it would be enough to raise the supreme sacred body from the lowest black iron tier to the true god tier elementary grade. At that level, even if billions of true god tier elementary grade god spirits attacked Zhou Zhou, he could treat them as nothing. He could even absorb all the attacking energy and convert it into his chaotic sacred power. There was another crucial point. If Zhou Zhou wanted to have a lord talent that was stronger than the mythical tier lord talent, which was the supreme god realm lord talent, or even the willpower lord talent, having a supreme sacred body was one of the requirements to become a stronger lord talent. Zhou Zhou's expression was solemn. He did not expect the supreme sacred body to be so powerful. Cultivate. He had to cultivate it. Even if it was for the most basic invulnerability, he had to work hard to cultivate this supreme sacred body. Needless to say, the supreme sacred body was also related to the higher level. Lord Talent. This supreme sacred body inheritance is really powerful. Zhou Zhou exclaimed from the bottom of his heart. This is a cultivation technique of the supreme will. Of course it's incomparably powerful, Bodhi Supreme said lazily. You got a chance to officially answer my questions. You're really lucky. Zhou Zhou chuckled. He also felt that he had taken advantage of him. Then it seems that in the future, my Lord Talent Crystal Fragment and even my Lord Talent Sphere can be used to cultivate the Supreme Sacred Body instead of awakening the Lord Talent. He thought for a moment and said, using the Lord Talent Crystal Fragment could increase the level of the Lord Talent. Cultivating the supreme sacred body could not only increase the level of the Lord talent he had, but it could also awaken other Lord talents on its own. At the same time, he could also become a supreme sacred body. Zhou Zhou had no reason to reject such a win-win situation. It doesn't have to be so absolute. If you feel that a certain Lord talent needs to be quickly upgraded, you can also directly use the Lord talent crystal fragment to upgrade your Lord talent. This can also indirectly increase the efficiency of your cultivation of the supreme sacred body. It's just that there's no balance in your normal cultivation. You can make up for it through normal cultivation later. The Bodhi Supreme reminded. Moreover, I didn't ask you to leave these Lord talent crystal fragments behind just to cultivate the supreme sacred body. When you need a supreme or even willpower Lord talent in the future, you will also need a huge number of Lord talent crystal fragments or Lord talent spheres to create a Lord talent of this level. At that time, you'll think that the Lord talent crystal fragment and Lord talent sphere you have now are nothing. However, you don't have to think too much. You're not even a master god tier now. It's far from the time you need a higher level Lord talent. The only mythical tier Lord talent is enough for you. When you become a master god tier, it won't be too late to start creating higher level Lord talents. I see. Zhou Zhou was deep in thought. Cultivating the supreme sacred body required a large number of Lord talent crystal fragments or even Lord talent spheres. Creating a supreme or even willpower level Lord talent required a large number of Lord talent crystal fragments and Lord talent spheres. It seemed that he had to work hard to fight. Only war could allow him to protect himself, make himself stronger, and also allow him to cultivate the supreme sacred body and obtain a higher grade Lord talent. I have one more question. Zhou Zhou couldn't help but ask. In the inheritance of the supreme sacred body, I saw a world that even the supreme will can't control. What kind of world is that? Zhou Zhou couldn't help but ask. In the inheritance of the supreme sacred body, I saw a world that even the supreme will can't control. What kind of world is that? Zhou Zhou stopped asking. He had a big heart. Even though he would plan ahead, he wouldn't be worried or anxious about something that happened too long ago. In any case, no matter how worried and anxious he was, it would not help him in the future. What was there to be anxious about? Since Bodhi Supreme had said so, he would just accumulate his strength obediently. It would be enough to deal with any accidents when he had enough strength. He stopped thinking and returned his gaze to the war summary. He saw the 152 Lord Talent spheres. From the green bronze tier Lord Talent to the mythical tier 1 and only Lord Talent, there was everything. If it was in the past, he might have been very excited. But now, he had more than 10 mythical tier 1 Lord Talents. Coupled with the fact that he knew about the supreme sacred body and the higher level Lord Talent, he was no longer too affected by these Lord Talent spheres. At most, he was happy. He was happy that he had the resources to advance to a higher level. Therefore, he did not plan to use these Lord Talent spheres for the time being. He planned to keep them for now. He would use them after he cultivated the supreme sacred body or prepared to gather the Lord Talents of the 10 Sacred Protection series. Then, his gaze landed on the Time Elemental Gem and the Space Elemental Gem. He couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. These Scarlet Empires had indeed brought a large number of empire-building resources. As for Divine Crystals, True God Tier Divine Crystals, Master God Tier Divine Crystals, Divine Artifacts, True God Tier Divine Artifacts, and Master God Tier Divine Crystals, there were even more than expected. Now that Zhou Zhou had the Mechanical Elven, the Eternal Mothership, and various God-tier battleships, these divine crystals came at the right time. And those Time Elemental Gems and Space Elemental Gems were enough for him to upgrade his territory again. Then, he looked at the list of Insight defections and the list of new God spirits. Yesterday night, the 312 Lords of the Star Alliance under him had incited these scarlet factions 312 times. A total of 4,368,000,000,000 scarlet soldiers, 488,126 scarlet god spirits, and 512 true god tiers had been incited by insight defection. Even if 20% of these soldiers were given to Zhou Zhou, he would still receive more than 8,736,000,000,000 scarlet soldiers, 97,625 scarlet god spirits, and 102 scarlet true god tiers. Including the 19.2 trillion new recruits and 10 god spirits who had just been recruited and transferred, as well as the new god spirits and true god tiers who had broken through in the war, the number of soldiers in his main combat army had shockingly reached 3,865, 6647, 036, 656 soldiers, 126,288 god spirits, and 351 true god tiers. Including the total number of troops and god spirits in the Star Alliance, the number of soldiers under him had already reached 7,276,830,612,001 soldiers, 597,679 god spirits, and 761 true god tiers. Zhou Zhou nodded slightly. Even though this number was far inferior to the total forces of the 50,000-odd Scarlet Empire and the million-odd Scarlet Kingdoms, it had already reached 120% of the other party. With this army, Zhou Zhou would be able to be arrogant in the High Continent. Most importantly, after 312 insight defections, 40% of the Scarlet Soldiers, the Scarlet God Spirit, and the Scarlet True God tier had secretly become his subordinates. Today, there would be another round of insight defection, and tomorrow, there would be another round of insight defection. He could make nearly 80% of the soldiers, God Spirits, and True God tier of the 93 high-level Scarlet Empire submit to him. At that time, as long as he gave the order, the 93 high-level Scarlet Empires would be wiped out. Zhou Zhou could not help but take a deep breath. This was the power of 312 lords who had grasped the legendary tier lord talent. It was laughable. AUS had clearly grasped a method to restrain him, the 10,000 Spirit Saint. However, he did not expect that his main target had not appeared all this time, so the other party did not have the chance to use that method at all. What was even more unexpected was that by tomorrow, Zhou Zhou's subordinates would be able to incite most of his subordinates to incite defection. Zhou Zhou's mission would have actually been completed when the time comes. Whether the entire King of 10,000 Kings event would end or not was already up to him. Everything happened too quickly. Zhou Zhou did not expect that such a powerful enemy would be defeated so easily. The only thing he was thinking about now was how to kill that AUS clone. Al's Chaos Scarlet Empire had yet to appear as yet. The ones in charge of guarding the borders of the Scarlet Army had always been the high-level Scarlet Empires. If he wanted to complete the mission given to him by the Supreme Will, which was to destroy the 100 high-level Scarlet Empires led by Al's clone, his primary goal must be to kill AUS and the other kings of the empires. Among the soldiers and god spirits of the other kings, it was easy to kill them because they had insight defection soldiers and god spirits. However, the Chaos Scarlet Empire had never been incited by insight defection. In addition, Al's clone was also very vigilant. It would be quite difficult to deal with Al's clone from the inside. He didn't think too much about it as he would have the upper hand the next day. At that time, as long as he was prepared to prevent the other party from escaping, the other party would already be a turtle in a jar. There was no need to think too much about it. Then, he looked at the list of newly promoted god spirits.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.